Griffith did not sacrifice the Band of the Hawk because he went insane. Not because he could not endure pain. He did it because he remained terrifyingly rational. That is the real horror of Griffith. Not Femto, not the Eclipse, but the absence of anything inside him strong enough to interrupt the calculation. People often describe the Eclipse as the collapse of a broken man. But Griffith did not collapse. He closed a transaction. He did not sacrifice his comrades out of hatred. He sacrificed them because they had always been part of the same equation. To Griffith, people were never sacred. They were investments, resources, the necessary cost of a single objective, a kingdom where he would never depend on anyone again. The Band of the Hawk looked like a family. For Griffith, it was an organization built around his dream. He inspired loyalty. He rescued people. He gave them purpose. But every act of devotion strengthened only one thing: his ascent. The most frightening thing about Griffith is not cruelty. It is the lack of internal resistance. Most people hesitate before crossing a moral line. Shame, love, empathy, the memory of another person's suffering. Griffith processes those moments differently. Berserk reveals this long before the Eclipse, through the death of a child. Where most people would stop and question the path ahead, Griffith reaches a colder conclusion. If others have already died for the dream, abandoning it now would only make those deaths meaningless. Human life stops being a boundary. It becomes an investment that demands a return. That is why his ambition is so different from ordinary ambition. Most ambitious people can still be changed by someone they love. Griffith cannot. The dream does not exist because of people. People exist to justify the dream. His greatest fear is not failure. It is becoming ordinary. For most people, humiliation is painful. For Griffith, it is the destruction of his identity. After the torture, he loses far more than his body. He loses the only version of himself he is willing to accept. The man everyone follows. The man who stands above dependence. The man who is never forced to survive on another person's mercy. Pain itself is not what breaks him. Loss of status does. That is why the Eclipse is not an emotional explosion. It is a calculated escape from a life his own mind considers worse than death. And once you understand that, the tragedy of Griffith changes completely. The question is no longer how he became a monster. The question is whether there was ever enough humanity inside him to reject the transaction in the first place. Griffith's horror does not end with psychology. Berserk makes it cosmic. Because Griffith is not only a damaged narcissist, he is also a product of causality. This is where the deleted chapter 83 becomes essential. Officially removed, but impossible to ignore. Because it reveals the hidden machinery beneath Berserk's world. The idea of evil is not a traditional god. Not a ruler in heaven. Not a demon making arbitrary choices. It is a metaphysical structure born from humanity itself. People could not accept meaningless suffering. They demanded an explanation, a purpose, an author behind every tragedy. So the world created one. That is Berserk's most disturbing idea. Evil is not imposed on humanity. It is generated by humanity's need for meaning. And Griffith becomes the perfect instrument of that system. Not because he forces destiny to obey him, but because destiny shapes him. His beauty, his charisma, his brilliance, his impossible ability to inspire devotion. Even his fall, everything begins to look less like personal achievement and more like design. Griffith is not simply a man climbing through history. He is history's perfect vessel. Someone beautiful enough to make power look righteous. That is why people follow him so easily. They see more than a commander. They see proof that suffering leads somewhere. That sacrifice can become order. that enough blood can make a dream sacred. Griffith gives domination an elegant face. He turns obedience into purpose. He makes exploitation feel like salvation. That is far more dangerous than ordinary cruelty. A tyrant rules through fear. Griffith rules through hope. The Eclipse simply reveals the system that was always there. The God Hand does not create Griffith. They expose him. They give supernatural legitimacy to what his mind already believed. That the dream comes first. That the dead can be justified by the throne. That love has value only when it serves ascent. This is why Femto is not the opposite of Griffith. Femto is Griffith, without restraint. The same ambition. The same hierarchy. The same dream. Only stripped of the last performance of human tenderness. After the Eclipse, Griffith is no longer merely a man. He becomes a function of causality. Cold, beautiful, efficient, almost impossible to hate in the ordinary way. Because he does not destroy out of rage. He destroys because nothing inside him interrupts the machinery. And once that machinery returns him to the world not as a broken survivor, but as a savior. His transformation is complete. The final form of Griffith is not the Eclipse. It is Falconia. If Griffith had remained only Femto, he would be easy to understand, easy to hate, easy to call a monster. Instead, Berserk returns him to the world as its savior. Falconia is not just a city. It is a utopia built by a man who has already proven that human lives are expendable. Its walls hold. Its people are safe. Monsters remain outside. After the collapse of civilization, Griffith offers order. And that is what makes Falconia so terrifying. Because it works. Outside its walls there is only chaos. Inside there is security, purpose, and hope. When survival depends on one ruler, resistance stops looking heroic. It looks irrational. That is Griffith's greatest victory. He no longer rules through fear. He rules through dependence. People obey him because they cannot imagine tomorrow without him. The price of that paradise has already been paid. The sacrifice is buried beneath its foundations. The dead cannot speak. Only the living remain. And the living owe Griffith everything. He has monopolized not only power, but hope itself. He has built a world where rejecting his dream feels almost identical to choosing death. A world where no one can ever reduce him to helplessness again. But Berserk hides one final tragedy inside that victory. Griffith gains the kingdom, the castle, the worship, the impossible city shining like heaven. Yet in achieving everything, he erases the last part of himself capable of genuine human connection. That is why guts matters. Not simply because he opposed Griffith, but because he may have been the only person capable of making ambition hesitate. And that possibility had to disappear. So Griffith wins. Completely. But what remains is not a triumphant devil. Only a flawless ghost. A ruler surrounded by millions of lives. And almost nothing left inside himself. He built paradise because he could not tolerate chaos. He became a god because he could not tolerate dependence. And in doing so, he achieved the coldest ending Berserk could imagine. Not punishment, not remorse, but perfect order and perfect emptiness. That is Griffith, not a man destroyed by ambition. A man who used ambition to erase the last evidence that he had ever been human.